Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I show you how to paint a witch for Halloween. Maybe you need a little bit of inspiration to get into the Halloween mood, and what's better for that than painting and drawing something spooky? But before we start, have a look at the video description for a list and links to all materials I used in this video. Now let's begin and gather some inspiration and references first. And Pinterest or Google Images are some great resources for that. We need photos for a witch's head, pumpkins, and of course a beautiful model. After having collected what I needed, I made a digital mock-up in Photoshop. I need at least a couple of hours, if not days, to complete one of these. I piece together numerous photos, color correct, and also do horrible things to my models, like cutting out their eyes and deforming their faces, until I am happy with my picture. But there's no need to go to such extents as I do. You can simply collect a couple of illustrations and draw from what you see. Which now brings us to the drawing part. Once you have the reference ready, you can either now draw it, or you can print it out and trace it onto your watercolor paper. Today I show you how to draw it, and all you need is an HB pencil and just simple printer paper. Because I don't want to damage my watercolor paper by using an eraser on it, I draw on a separate sheet of paper, where I can doodle as much as I like without having to worry about the delicate surface of the watercolor paper. I begin by indicating the center of the face with a vertical line. Then I place the nose and the lips on top of it. I draw two more vertical lines for the corners of the mouth and another one for the eyes. As our model looks straight to the viewer, we can use these simple guidelines to help us with the symmetry. I always compare all the edges of the facial features with each other to get the proportions right. That being said, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you can change up proportions as much as you like. After having placed the main facial features, we can add details like the irises, eyelids, and eyebrows. Next, I added the contour of the face around its features. Pay attention to symmetry and where to place the cheekbones and the jawline, because it's so easy to draw an uneven jawbone. Since this is only going to be the preliminary sketch for the watercolor artwork, the face doesn't need to be perfect, although you are free to do so if that is what you really want to do. We really just need the outlines of everything, so we can already move on and draw the head. Always check the proportions of what you're working on. The head, for example, is really big compared to the face, and I drew it a bit too small in the beginning, so I had to correct it. Whenever I draw something, I start with a rough shape and add details later. There are no rules on how to draw or make art in general, so try out what works best for you. I added her curly hair and the pumpkins, and then drew the pumpkin faces. Then I added the ivy leaves. And here's a little pro tip for you. If you paint leaves or any floral element for that matter, try to understand its form, because chances are you probably have to repeat it multiple times within the same artwork. The ivy vines have a distinct shape and pattern to them, and once I memorized it, I could redraw them without having to compare them much with my reference. And then the drawing was finished, finally. I scanned it, opened it in Photoshop again, and flipped the image to check if the face was actually symmetrical. This time it looked pretty decent and I only corrected the lips a bit. A completely symmetrical face would look uncanny, so I tried to not obsess over it too much. Next, I printed the new drawing out and traced it onto my watercolor paper. Now, you can perhaps understand why I don't draw that often. It takes up a lot of time and this is just not my favorite part of creating art. I can skip this entire step if I print out the reference. But this is just how I do it and you can create art however you like. There are no rules for it. Drawing is a great way to alter the motif even more towards your own preferences and style. I, for example, made her face even more doll-like. Now, let's get to the heart of the painting process. My favorite parts of creating art have always been bringing my ideas to life. And for me, that means adding colors. So I'm always extremely excited and a bit nervous when I paint the first brushstrokes. I begin by mixing a couple of base colors. It's important to choose wisely in the beginning, as the first brushstrokes have a huge impact on the final painting. I pick colors that I believe would work well together, like purple, turquoise green, and a very light yellow. I don't cover every inch of the drawing with paint though. Instead, I purposely leave gaps of the white paper shine through. This will give the artwork a more abstract and painterly look. After this first layer has dried, I can paint on her face. I mix yellow ochre and orange ochre for the midtones and slowly build up the shades of the face while letting each other dry before I add the next one. I pass drying times by painting other parts of my composition that are already dry. This means I jump from part to part, which can be confusing to the viewer but makes total sense to me. Next, I painted the shades of the pumpkins, while leaving out the carved face of one of them to make it seem as if there was a candle with glowing light in it. Then I added more layers to the portrait with orange and grey for the shadows. Obtaining a style between total chaos and a neat finished look requires constant focus. And I admit it doesn't always work out, but the end result is always worth the effort. It's a completely intuitive process that I can't really explain, and it often takes me into a flow state where it almost feels as if the water and the paint were an extension of my own body, and I enjoy it really much. While waiting for the face to dry, I continued painting on her head with bright purple and azurite blue, leaving gaps to avoid painting too neatly, as this can make the art look dull. I finished the first part of the process with wild purple, orange and green splashes. I indicated her blonde curls with a couple of light shades and a flowy purple contour to distinguish them from the background. Using Luminance and Polychromos color pencils, I gave the face a smooth finish. Starting with the eyes, I began by drawing the lash line first and then filled in the white of the eyes with various shades of grey. After adding the orange eyeshadow, I blend the edges with a lighter luminance shade to merge it into the surrounding skin. I draw the lashes on top and continued with the nose, adding some light grey and orange shadows. I finished it off by drawing the darkest parts like the nostrils with the dark brown. I filled in the lips with a scarlet red shade and blended the border with a white luminance pencil. I finished the painting up by adding a couple more details and contours to it. As you might know from my previous videos, each month I create a series of illustrations to a certain theme for my supporters over on Patreon. And for October, they voted for Halloween. And while you are watching this video, I am probably busy with working on the remaining illustrations. You can check out my Patreon page to see the rest of them and to watch the full version of this tutorial, which is actually 1 hour and 40 minutes long and which guides you through the full coloring process of my sketch. I explain in detail which colors you need to mix for the skin tone and for the overall painting, and how to refine everything with color pencils in a step-by-step manner. You can download and print out the reference photo and the final sketch for your own artwork as well. Especially if you found this tutorial a little bit too fast for you, you could greatly benefit from my 100 painting tutorials and lessons that you will get immediate access to when you join me on Patreon for only $5 per month. Just click on the link in the video description to watch the full video and to get access to all my other lessons. And if you're interested in even more courses, let me tell you about today's video sponsor, Skillshare. If you don't know Skillshare yet, it's an online learning platform with a community of over 1 million creative people and thousands of courses to all sorts of different topics. The courses basically cover every creative topic you can think of, like illustration, fine art, watercolor, writing, video making, business, basically everything. And once you become a member, you get unlimited access to all classes, which are, by the way, mostly under 60 minutes long and are grouped into short lessons, which fit even the busiest schedules. And if you know what class I recently watched and recommend, it is Think Like an Artist by Christina Hultkrantz. She shows you some surprisingly fun and effective techniques to be more creative in general as an artist and have fun while doing it. I love her playful approach to art and illustrations, and her adorable personality makes the course so much more fun to watch. So head over to the video description and click on the link, because the first 1,000 people will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. And that's it. I hope you liked this video and you are now in a perfect mood for Halloween. I hope I see you in the next one. Don't forget to leave a comment. Bye bye!